in terms of like a home service business specifically, big value is the business systemized? If someone's looking to buy a business, are they going to come in and have to do everything, or can a person buy the business and be a business owner and the business continues to operate without any hiccups? So that's a big thing that you look at. Systemization. Do you generally have your stuff together, like your books, your accounting? It all needs to be super clean and organized. You need to have a clear list of your assets. It's got to be like dialed. Like if you're kind of running a fairly large business and you're doing your own books and it's kind of hokey pokey, like it's not gonna fly in a business sale, because it's gonna get looked at by professionals.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Mike Hickman here, and y'all are listening to another episode of the Painter Growth Podcast. And today I have my friend, Mr. Gavin Simpson, actually the newest Painter Growth executive coach, so coach at Painter Growth here. And really exciting conversation that we're about to have, because he used to run a painting company, and then he got involved with Shack Shine, bought a franchise, one of the OG franchises with Shack Shine, right? Which, as you guys may not know, it's an O2E brand, which is founded by the same guy who founded 1-800 Got Junk, so like super legit franchise, and built it up to over $2 million a year, and just is currently going through the sales process. You sold your franchise. So I'm stoked to talk to you, man. Welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So let's give the listeners just a little bit of context before we jump into, what we want to get out of today is like, I guess we'll find out as we go, but like, how do you prep your business for sale? If you want to exit your company one day, do you need to start thinking about now, or do you need to start thinking about it like later? Like, we'll get into some of that, but let's just rewind to when you decided to buy a Shack Shine franchise. What was that like?
Yeah, it was a natural step coming from running a painting business. Like, it's a very similar business in some ways. It was a logical next step. The big appeal for us was like the repeat revenue. That's one of the bigger differences between a painting business and a house detailing business. It's painting. If you do a good job, probably not going to see that customer for a few years. House detailing, slightly different in terms of you can service that same customer 3-4 times in a year, which is
So what was your average job size in terms of revenue?
$1,100.
So $1,100, you did over $2 million a year.
Just around 2 million.
About 2 million a year. So 1,100, that's like 2,000 jobs a year.
Yep. So like 1,800-ish jobs a year. Around there.
So that becomes a logistics.
Oh yeah. You are a logistics business. Like another big difference between a painting company is, painting, you can run several crews from one vehicle. You can't do that with a house detailing business, because one crew might be going to 4 different houses in a day. So each crew has to have its own vehicle. So we had 10 vans going. And
you had like nice Sprinter vans, didn't you?
Yep. Sprinter vans, fully loaded with equipment and ladders, and it's an operation for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. So how many years did it take you from startup to, breaking 2 mil?
7 years.
7 years. Okay. Yeah. With the amount of logistics, I feel like that's probably pretty good growth trajectory.
Yeah. The first few years we grew really, really quickly. I think our 4th year, we actually bought out another franchise and acquired their customers, which gave us about a $300K boost in revenue, which was nice. And hit some plateaus, had some great growth years. Yeah, it was a wild ride.
So when did you decide that this is a business that you wanted to try selling one day?
About a couple years ago. Originally, like when we first started the business, so for clarity, I had 2 business partners when we started. We always knew at some point the intention was going to be to sell the business. We didn't know exactly when. But but it became very intentional about like a couple of years ago, and we had thought about it about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it took a while.
When you first decided that you were going to sell your business, what did you do? Who did you talk to? What were the things that you decided to change? How did you figure out what you needed to do in your business to make it saleable?
Great question. So none of us had any idea whatsoever of like first steps. So a lot of research. This first step is kind of like, what is this business worth? So you got to, and that's very, very complicated process to get a business valued properly.
And just still 3 times earnings? Something like that?
Roughly, yeah. It's every business is different. Even if it's like a franchise, it's valued differently. So
yeah.
But and essentially, the first thing you need to decide is if you're going to sell it yourself or if you're going to sell it with a broker. We didn't have any clue on how to sell a business. It's a pretty big business, so we decided to go the broker route just for safety's sake. So essentially, first step was finding a broker. Most brokerages will value your business, so we got I think it was 3 different valuations. Kind of interviewed the brokers and kind of chose a specific broker to work with and put down a retainer.
Okay. So you put down a retainer. Was this like 2 years ago? Or this was more recent?
It was like 2.5 years ago.
Okay, 2.5 years ago. So what did this broker, when he came in to look at your business, what did he or she say when assessing your business? Like, hey, if you want to maximize the value that you get for this company, you need to start doing these things.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of like a home service business specifically, big value is the business systemized? If someone's looking to buy a business, are they going to come in and have to do everything, or can a person buy the business and be a business owner and the business continues to operate without any hiccups? So that's a big thing that you look at. Systemization. Do you generally have your stuff together, like your books, your accounting? It all needs to be super clean and organized. You need to have a clear list of your assets. It's got to be like dialed. Like if you're kind of running a fairly large business and you're doing your own books and it's kind of hokey pokey, like it's not gonna fly in a business sale, because it's gonna get looked at by professionals. And you got to have an answer for everything.
Mm-hmm. What were the things that you found needed to get changed, fixed, or upgraded?
So we needed to clean up our books, and we were missing a lot of systems because we had grown so fast, and having so many partners in the business, you don't realize how much you actually do. So we just did a huge brain dump and broke down every single task that we did ourselves and started to systemize it and delegate, which takes a while. Like it's not like a switch you flick and suddenly your business is operating without you. So we still listed it for sale, and then we were working and improving the business specifically to make it more attractive for a buyer.
Mm-hmm. When you were doing those things, like when you did that brain dump, so as a business owner at the time, were you still pretty involved in the day-to-day operations?
Yep.
Okay. And what was your goal through this activity? Did you want to like get completely out of operations and like bring in a general manager?
Which is exactly what we did. Yeah. So we, fully systemized the sales process, brought in an operations manager, which we already had, but we was just like fine tuning that role. And then we brought in a general manager for our last year. So we
so you had an operations manager and a general manager.
And a general
the ops manager in the painting speak would be like a production manager.
Basically, yeah.
But because like production is just quicker jobs, it's not as much production, it's more operations, more logistics.
More logistics, checking in with customers. Like there's weeks we would do 40, 50 jobs quite easily. Sometimes some weeks way more, like depending on the jobs, like the time of year and the jobs that would come in. So there's a lot of stuff, like a lot of check marks that need to be ticked and make sure all those customers are happy, and a lot of moving parts.
Okay. Yeah. So the concept of a general manager is really interesting. I think a lot of people love the idea of bringing on a general manager, but are also terrified about giving up that amount of control of their business to someone that isn't invested in it the way that they are, right? Jesse, our other one of our other blueprint coaches in his painting business, he recently brought on he actually doesn't even call it a general manager. He calls it a CEO because he's so hands off in his painting business. So what were some of the reservations that you had? Actually, I'm going to back up and rephrase this question. Would you have brought on this general manager if you weren't listing your business for sale, or do you think you would have just kept grinding?
Yeah, we pretty quickly. Like the business sale, I would say expedited it because we wanted to make it more attractive to a buyer, so they could purchase it and not have to be as heavily involved in it. But we were getting to the point where we wanted to, remove ourselves from the business anyways. So it was already on the radar. We just really pushed it.
Okay. What were some of like the reservations or fears that you had during the process, like the early stages of bringing on a GM, that you were just like concerned about?
Yeah. I mean, there's always the natural fears of, and thinking of like, this person's not gonna be able to do it as good as I can. What if I spend all this time investing and recruiting and, onboarding this person and then they're not the right fit? Like, it's a pretty significant investment to bring on a role like that.
Yeah.
What if they don't align with the vision long term and it doesn't work out after a year or two? Like there's always this like uncertainty of like, is this the right move? And let's get it right.
I think all of those concerns that you just mentioned are pretty common concerns for anyone thinking about not just a general manager, but any significant role in their business, whether it's production manager, general manager, sales rep, whatever. How did you properly, or as properly as possible, mitigate against those risks? Like, how did you vet? How do you get applicants for this role? And then how did you mitigate against those risks of the wrong fit?
So in terms of getting applicants, we really relied on like online postings, like very, very specific online postings. I think the GM that we ended up hiring, I believe we'd ended up doing 4 to 5 different interviews. Did a lot of due diligence on him, on his, previous work history, had him out in the vans. So he knew what the business was. Like, we had him using tools, cleaning windows, cleaning gutters. So he really fully understood what the business was.
So he was a full like external hire.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So full external hire, and you did like a thorough interview, and then you did like a working interview too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you get to that stage with anybody who you ended up not continuing with, or was it like the one person that you brought to a working interview ended up being
right we had one other person go through that process. Did a couple of interviews, had him out, and it's when you're out in the rain, you're getting dirty, it's cold, you really see what someone's like, you see their nature, right? So
yeah,
you put them in the shit, for lack of a better word, and you can start to see the cracks in their armor sometimes, right? So it's good to get their hands dirty.
What was the moment that you realized this was the person that you wanted to bring on as GM?
There were no, I wouldn't say there's a very clear moment. Like, it was definitely like a build up. Like, there were no huge red flags, obviously. He immediately commanded respect when he was, interacting with the employees, and working with the crews. And he was already coming up with ideas to improve the business. Like, every interview we did, he had ideas prepared. Like, he was already working on the business and he hadn't even started yet. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, I didn't have to tell him, oh, hey, like, come with 3 or 4 different ideas of how you can improve this specific part. He was already doing it.
He's taking initiative.
Totally. Yeah.
Huge.
So his buy-in was like extremely evident, and he was eager for a change from what he was currently doing.
What kind of comp structure did you use?
We had a base salary with bonuses based off of certain, different KPIs.
Okay. So it's like a base plus like profit sharing, production bonuses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any hiccups that you guys had as you were bringing on this GM? Like, did you let him fail at any given time that was like, it was hard to do?
Yeah, then that was very intentional. Is we, did some onboarding with them, and like this is a totally new role for us to bring on, right? I'd never onboarded a general manager into a business. It's also interesting because he was 55 years old. I'm 30. So or yeah, I think closer to 60 years old he was. Very experienced in a wide variety of businesses. So we kind of set the expectations, made his role clear to him, gave him the support he needed, but let him, learn the business, pull the information that he needed. We got him out meeting everybody in the business and spending time with them, building those relationships. But it took a lot longer than I had anticipated for him to like really get integrated into the business and be pushing the business forward. It was not a quick thing because it is a deceivingly complex business with like the amount of moving parts and the amount of customers and admin.
Well, I mean, even with a painting business, right, there's still like a lot of moving parts. And I think that when you're doing anything in business, you got to expect it to be a lot slower than you want it to be.
So that caught me off guard.
I still struggle with all the time in my business. Like everything is so much slower and it just frustrates me. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. So looking back at it now, that makes a lot more sense. Like someone's not going to be, this is not like a technician where we can get them up and running in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like this is like a
significant role running your business, right?
Exactly. And like my partner Kit and I, we had a list of what we saw as priorities in the business. And we put him in the business and asked him, go assess the business, the people, who are the weak links, who's doing well, what are the priorities. And we had him create his own list without any input from us. And we kind of cross-referenced just to see if his thought process and his way of assessing a business and people were aligned with us. And it was very, very much aligned right off the bat.
Did you use any personality tests or like any like Enneagram or Myers-Briggs or anything like that?
I didn't for this role. I have for different roles in the past, but didn't actually do that for this role. No. It
doesn't sound like you really needed to. I mean, they can be helpful, but it sounds like you got pretty lucky there.
Yeah.
I mean, luck is a stretch, right? Luck is when hard work meets opportunity.
Exactly.
So I feel okay saying that here. So you brought this person on, you brought this general manager on, you're just like zooming out a little bit. You're working to build systems to increase the the actual value that someone will pay for your company. So you deal with a broker, they're like, you need to get this sorted out. You bring on a GM, you start streamlining those systems. What else did you do to get your business organized in order to be ready for a sale?
So big one for us was, obviously naturally as a business owner, you want to absolutely maximize your tax write-offs and money you save, and that can lower your perceived net profit from the business in terms of like a tax perspective. You actually want to avoid doing that to a certain extent because you want your business to look as profitable as possible.
I was just talking to a client yesterday on one of the coaching calls, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been writing everything off through the business to bring my profit down because I don't want to pay taxes, right? I want to have low taxes." Exactly. I'm like, that's okay if your goal right now is to have low taxes, but if your goal is to sell your business, you need to do the exact opposite.
The exact opposite. You want that business looking as profitable as possible. So it's going to cost you a little bit, in terms of taxes. But if you're selling your business for a multiple of EBITDA, which is typically how businesses are valued, they don't just look at what you did last year. They don't look at what sale. It's all kind of looked at, but it's a combination of what you did last year, the year before that, right? So it's every year is weighted differently, but it's all taken into account the previous 2-3 years. So it's like to sell a business is a very intentional thing. It's not, I'm going to sell my business, it's up on the market next week and it's sold within a month. It's a super long process, and you need to plan ahead to really maximize the opportunity for sure.
So what were some of the other things that you did, the other systems you had to implement in your business to get it ready, other than bringing on this GM?
Yeah, the new roles, that was the big one because we needed to replace ourselves basically. We streamlined administrative roles and put in marketing SOPs in place. Building SOPs.
These are administrative roles, market. These are big words and big things that are very opaque. Specifically, how did you do that?
So
you
we
write
took
checklists and then work on one line item at a time.
Yeah, so we looked at the different people in the business, because quite often we weren't the best at systemizing things as we went along, and so we realized we had to catch up. So we looked at every role. What are people doing? Okay, let's document that. Had them document that, and then we turned that into an SOP. So people were documenting all the different things that they were doing throughout the day, and then turned those into actual instruction manuals for the business, basically, to the point where you want to make it so someone who has no idea about your business can come in and, what is this person's role? What do they do? How do you do it?
Yeah, basically making it as clear as possible what everyone does and like how to be successful in each role.
Yeah, exactly.
Big task.
Big task. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the preparation part took a while. The broker also walks you through like what's going to help you make your business more attractive as well, right? Like we have to build like a very detailed organizational structure, because they put together a package that they use to market your business, and they send out they email it, they have their client lists, like that type of thing. So they tell you what they need for that, and you build it and help put it in there.
Awesome. So I mean that's super helpful, and it's important to do that. Did you use any sort of specific software for documenting SOPs, or did you just use like Google Docs?
We use Google Docs for pretty much everything. I created like Loom videos and whatnot, just like video tutorials for some stuff, which is super helpful. Looking back, I would just do a lot more of that. Like people don't want to go and read
what I do
documents.
is like I'll create a video tutorial, and then I'll have like an assistant or virtual assistant document that, right? Or you can even use like an AI tool to turn a video into an SOP in like one click. So you should definitely do videos, especially if it's online.
Exactly. Would highly recommend that. Plus, we had the benefit of being a franchise. So the franchise also had, in terms of like operationally, like how to wash a window, how to clean a gutter, how to install Christmas lights, all of that was already made for us, which was nice. That's the benefit of having a franchise, right? So
yeah, there's definitely a trade-off there, but that's huge value add.
Yeah.
So you engage a broker tells you to fix these things, so you start working on these things, and simultaneously they kind of give you an estimated value and then list it on the various brokerage sites.
Yep.
As soon as you had an interest, go ahead.
So and as time progressed, we actually increased the price of the business, because we were rapidly increasing the value of the business as we implemented these.
Cool, that's good to know. So the price that you set initially doesn't have to be the price that you keep. That's unlike real estate. Like when you list your house, like I just sold my house last week. So like when you sell your price, when you put your price online, like that's the highest price that you'll ever get, unless there's like a bidding war. You'll only go down from there. But for a business, it's a little bit different because of the lead time.
Totally. And if it does take 2 years to sell a business, you might have grown your business significantly, made a lot more profit. Right. So that needs to be represented in that.
I like even if someone listening is not thinking about growing their business, I think you should treat the next 2 years as if you were selling your business at the end of those 2 years. You need to think operationally, you need to document systems, you need to be, systems oriented, you put processes in place, and think about how you can be as uninvolved as possible. Because that creates not only does that create enterprise value, but that just is a smart way to grow a business.
Yeah, you also never know if someone's looking to buy a business and approaches you. You don't want to be scrambling, right? Absolutely. You want to have that. You want to have that prepared.
How long did it take your business being listed to you getting an interested buyer?
So and this is why it took quite a while. I think it took about 4 or 5 months before the first interested buyer came through. And we had several, over those 2 years, we had several people like very interested, put in offers. but financing fell through. So there's all these different hurdles. It's not, someone wants to buy your business and it just happens.
Finance is a big one.
The finance, people are like talking about they're remortgaging their homes to get this, plus getting bank loans. Some deals we would have had to finance some of it as the sellers. So there's a lot of things that go into, hurdles. And we ended up having, I think, 3 deals fall through primarily.
Wow.
Two were due to financing. And one was not approved by the franchisor, because that's
Talk
another
about
factor.
that emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's another note. Like, if you are in a franchise, there's another party that's involved here, because typically the franchisor has to approve the person that's buying your business. So they do their own interviews and their own due diligence, and so it's another level, which also slowed down the process.
Okay. So now you're thinking, okay, I'm just making sense of the story so far and figuring out where to pick up. So you're getting some interested parties. There's stuff following through. Walk me through, because I'm actually fairly naive when it comes to this. Walk me through what happens when someone becomes interested. They're like, hey, I'm an interested buyer. I'm a qualified buyer. I want to do my due diligence on your company. What does that look like?
Yeah. So the broker will do a good job of filtering out the people who are not qualified. So that's a big benefit of going with a broker, is you're not dealing with the tire kickers. So the broker reaches out to you. You typically don't have any interaction with these people in the early stages. It's say, they've qualified them, they're interested. They will have that potential buyer sign an NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement. At that point, they have full access to all of the accounting files and your books and asset lists and everything that you've provided to the broker in advance. Now they have access to that, so they can start to deep dive. They can request more information from you.
Do they ever get boots on the ground and see operations?
Eventually, you have to be careful with that. At this point, our team, nobody in the business knew we were up for sale, because we didn't want to impact the team and stress them out. What's going to happen, right? So we were very deliberate and careful about that. At some point, they're going to have to come into the business, and we'll typically interview key stakeholders. If you have a general manager, leadership team, they're going to want to interview those people.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit different in that sense than a real estate transaction, where because you use a realtor, you never actually meet the buyer.
Exactly. Yeah. So eventually they will do that, but that's pretty much the deal is done and it's relying on those interviews. Then they'll come in and do that. Financing's approved.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, then, all these people are starting to come in, say they're buying this business and it doesn't pan out. Employees are wondering what's happening.
Yeah.
It's super stressful for them. You're probably going to lose people because of they don't know what's going on.
It's a really interesting dynamic, right? Because as a I'm just thinking in the eyes of a business purchaser, the person who's buying the business, you're looking at finances, you're looking at spreadsheets, you're looking at documents and systems, and you don't actually see the business that you're buying until the 99-yard line.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to do it. I think we actually had one buyer come in and we just put him with a crew, and we phrase it as he's a potential lead technician or a potential operations manager.
That's undercover millionaire style.
Yeah, basically, right? So there's ways to do it. Obviously, there's a line of how much you deceive your team to protect them from being worried, and you want these people to have the information to be able to make a decision and actually move forward with the purchase of your business, right? So again, that's your preference as the owner. You can straight up tell your team that you're selling the business. There's people that do that, and some people have employees buy their business, right? So this was just our choice because we knew none of our employees would have been interested in that or being able to actually go through that purchase process.
Yeah. Okay. So you went through 2 no financing. Why did the one person get declined by the franchisor?
Poor business plan to run the business after we'd left, basically.
Interesting. So in addition to just kind of the funds and wanting to buy the business, they need to propose the plan that they had to continue to
Oh
grow the
yeah.
franchise.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. They got to present to the franchisor, like, this is what we're going to do when we take over. This is how it's going to grow. Just like you would, going into a bank to get financing. Like, you need to prove that this business is going to grow and you're going to be able to run it competently.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that one didn't work out. They just didn't like the plan, basically.
Yeah. All right. Wow. They can't like go back and like, all right, well, help me create the plan. I'll do it.
They can, but that person didn't want to change the plan.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So now we're getting kind of closer towards the end of the purchase. I know you got a few sensitive topics because it's not fully closed yet. So the guy, the final buy, can I say guy? Is it a?
Guys, yeah, it was like a father.
I assume their genders there. So the guy, he ends up buying. It ends up going through financing approved by the franchisor. Like, what happens next?
So then it's basically up to the lawyers. So they build out what's called a share purchase agreement. This is if it's a share sale. Like, there's two different types of business sales. You can do an asset sale, which is just take everything I own and sell it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, or you can sell it as a bundle, right? Or there's a share sale, which you're selling the actual business entity to someone, and which is what we did. It's how you would typically want to sell one of these businesses, because it takes in your reputation, goodwill, how much time you spent building this business. That's all factored in. So it's much more valuable doing this.
Are you familiar with this is Canadians only here. Are you familiar with the one-time capital gains exemption?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So it's nice because you sell a business in Canada and up to, it's like, I think 950 or something like that. I think it increased in capital gains. It's tax-free.
Yeah.
So
that's sweet.
If you're Canadian, try and sell a business. It's really valuable.
Yeah. And then if you have a spouse too who's on it, you can get twice that. So you get like 1.8 million of free money.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So, so to answer your question, next one is like the lawyers. They do their thing. This is not the type of thing you want to do on the back of a napkin and, send a few emails and on a handshake. Like, there's a lot of things that you could.
Like money's got to get put in trust and all that.
There's a lot of money involved. Exactly. Yeah. So lawyers do their thing. Both parties build out a share purchase agreement. And that's the deal, basically, is share purchase agreement. And then, everyone signs it, and then there's a transition date that's selected.
Yeah.
And then on that date, the ownership officially transfers. The payment from the purchasers goes into a trust, and that's paid to the sellers.
Yeah. Okay.
At that date.
So I'm not going to push towards the end, because I know you got some things that you're working on that you can't quite talk about because it's still closing. But what do you feel like were some of the biggest things that you learned going through this process that have like now improved you as a business owner that you're going to be able to carry using going forward?
Yeah.
Big question.
In terms of the actual business sale, of like, do your due diligence on who's buying your business. You are doing it pretty, like, other than maybe selling a house, like, this is probably the biggest business deal you'll ever do.
Hopefully bigger than selling your house, right?
Hopefully bigger than selling a house. Like, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars at stake. You need to know who you're doing business with. Don't take, some dude coming in and just offering you a bunch of money and take it for face value. Also, like, in my opinion, you have a duty to the people in your business to make sure that their jobs are safe and they're people who's taking on their work lives, they're in good hands. So,
well, like that. That's I think often overlooked, because you've promised your employees employment and you have good relationships. Like, a lot of them are probably your friends, right?
Yeah. Like, some of those people work for us for 7 years, right? So, so that was a big one. That's one thing we learned a little bit the hard way. We relied on the broker and the franchisor to do that due diligence for us for the most part. So looking back, we should have done a lot more of that. Look Like, deep dive if they've bought businesses before. Talk to the people they've bought businesses with, their
What
business
would be a red flag
partners.
that you would see that you would have seen, you would have noticed if you did the due diligence?
I mean, so these people specifically, they've bought several businesses before. If they wouldn't share the contact information of the people who they've done those deals with, that would be a huge red flag, for sure.
Like not having a reference, like when a client comes in and says,
yeah.
like, do you have a reference? No, I don't want to give you a reference to talk to. It's like, okay, well, that's a red flag.
Totally. It's just like a subcontractor interview on steroids. Like if you're talking to a subcontractor and, if they seem great, okay, awesome. Well, give me a couple of your customers and a couple of the other businesses that you work with, and nothing comes through, and it's excuses or something like that. That's a red flag. They should be proud of the deals that they've done. If someone, obviously, like, ask permission of whose contact information they're going to give to you, and like that's reasonable. But if they're not able to provide any of that, that's something you should really factor into your decision making.
Yeah.
If they have other businesses, talk to the other key stakeholders in those businesses. Their general managers, their leadership team, any of their employees. Look at their businesses on Google. Google the people. Like there's a lot. See if they've been sued before. You can find that out. It's all
because a lot of court documents are public access, right?
Exactly. Like, look that up. Do like your deep due diligence, because you're going to be in business with these people for a while, because it's not just typically you sell the business and you're out, you're done. Like there's typically a trading process period in which you're still involved in the business. Quite often there's some level of seller financing or, funds. Not all the funds in a business sale are released right away. They, have certain conditions and holdbacks and whatnot to make sure that you as a seller are doing your part as well. But if they're the type of person who decides not to send you that money when it's due, then you got legal issues, right? So.
Yeah. So now you're going to be working with us. You're getting through this. You're going to be working with us, helping out our clients and doing some coaching here. Super excited to get you going.
Likewise.
What do you feel are going to be your strengths as a coach here for our lovely painting contractor clients?
I would say system implementation. Coming from a lot of franchise history, systems are important, right? Also, from selling a business, you realize the value of those systems is huge. And just like a general knowledge of sales and how things operate in a business, logistics. Like if people are running lots of crews, I know how to do that. Honestly, pretty well-rounded in terms of the home service business. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, stoked to have you on the team. I think that's a perfect word. Super well-rounded entrepreneur, and I'm sure you're gonna go through another sale of another business one day in the future, and it's gonna be a lot smoother.
Hopefully, yeah.
Sweet, Gavin. Well, thanks for coming on, man, and I'm sure we'll see you here again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.